We tell you the best choice to take Russell Gage's place as wide receiver 3, that and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
Your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this Friday episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view every single day. And don't forget, you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is David Harrison at DHarrison82. We are credentialed members of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am the deputy editor of SB Nation's BucsNation.com. David is a staff writer over at BucsGameDay.com, Sports Illustrated's fan nation site covering the Bucs. And we are here with you every Monday through Friday, along with our everydayers. And as always, we want to share our appreciation for your continued support of the show. This week, we're here Monday through Saturday minus Thursday is how that works, I think.
Yeah, interesting times. This episode of Locked On Bucs is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL. It's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply, and LinkedIn will help you be recommended good people, and hopefully you're smart and you listen to those recommendations instead of hitting the easy button and going with somebody who is probably going to fail. Anyway, that's a different story. Previewing the Bucs and the Jets preseason game Saturday night coming up in a little bit. But we have to start, of course, with the bad news, because unfortunately the bad news is the most critical news as far as long-term for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Really not just this season, but going into the future, because Russell Gage was expected to be a critical part of the Buccaneers offense this year. And of course, if he proved to be that critical piece of the Buccaneers offense, then in theory, you're probably looking at him staying with the Buccaneers throughout his contract. But as we talked about with Logan Robinson earlier this week, not really seeing a world where the Buccaneers don't cut ties with Russell Gage in the next offseason once he's healthy enough to be released, in order to save the way more than $10 million of cap space that they could certainly use for other things. So Russell Gage, since the last time we talked, it has been confirmed ruptured his patellar tendon in the joint practice with the New York Jets on Wednesday and is out for the rest of the season. Of course, that's a really tough break for someone who's battled through a lot of injuries. And, granted, I think this is where a lot of Bucs fans are getting a little bit salty. When he was healthy, a little bit inconsistent. But I think when you're battling through injuries in your first training camp, battling through injuries throughout your first season with a team, it's kind of hard to get into a groove and do all those things. But showing his dedication, right? Tom Brady's gone, agreed to take a pay cut. He could have, in theory, just been like, no, I'm not going to take a pay cut. They release him. He goes and signs somewhere else, maybe Kansas City, something like that, going and chasing a ring. Things like that. But he decided he wanted to stick with the team, stick with the roster, be a part of the rebuild, reload, whatever you want to call it. And this is, the reward that the universe is going to give him. And James, we've talked about this a lot. Sometimes your body just doesn't agree with your career choices. And it looks like Russell Gage's body may be one of those bodies that's rejecting his choice to be an NFL player. And that's unfortunate because not a lot of guys get to do that. But the Buccaneers need to find a third receiver. So for me, James, I think the best option here currently on the roster, it's got to be Trey Palmer. I just think it has to be Trey Palmer. And I see your face, so you're going to come up with some crazy alternative that just doesn't make sense. But Trey Palmer, when you look at what Russell Gage is supposed to bring to the offense, nobody brings what Russell Gage was supposed to be to this offense the way that Trey Palmer does, as well as Trey Palmer has so far. And I know that's preseason. I know it's training camp. I know it's one highlight from a joint practice. All of those things, huge grains of salt. But the problem is, even with that huge grain of salt, nobody else on the roster does what he does. They can play in the slot, certainly, but they can't bring the potential dynamic play that Trey Palmer brings. 4 catches, 33 yards, and a touchdown in his preseason debut, his NFL debut for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look at his collegiate stats, 10-plus yards or yards per catch average throughout his college career, even as he's struggling to get playing time at LSU. When he's getting 10-plus yards per catch on a consistent basis. This is a guy who's literally designed to be explosive on the football field. That's what this Buccaneers offense is missing. So that's why he is the best option here. And I look forward to you being wrong, but trying to tell me why you have a different name.
Well, it wasn't the name that I made the face about. It was you saying that the only option, because he's not the only option. He's one of two options.
He's the option. Go ahead.
To me, it's Trey Palmer for all the reasons that you just said, or it's Devin Tompkins. We've already been talking about Devin Tompkins kind of solidifying that wide receiver 4 role, Palmer probably being that wide receiver 5. To me, yeah, you can put Trey Palmer in at the wide receiver 3 because of all the things that you mentioned, because of the different element that he brings to the game, or everybody just slides up 1. So now you have Devin Tompkins out there, and you hope that Baker or Kyle don't hang him out to dry and he gets his 5'6" self completely destroyed by some middle linebacker. But Devin Tompkins, to me, has earned the opportunity to get a shot at this wide receiver 3 job. He was a training camp superstar last year and then started to contribute a little bit more to the offense and the special teams last year. Now he's showing that he's grown even more. He's gotten even better. And to me, he deserves that opportunity. Now, I'm not going to argue if it's Trey Palmer because they're different wide receivers and there would be different reasonings for them to each get that spot. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that either Tompkins or Palmer is the wrong choice. I just think on the roster, those are the only 2 choices that the Bucs have right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew that, you know, when you were going to go a different way, I knew that's who you're going to go with because you have to. Like that's the only other option on this roster. And you look at David Moore, but David Moore, if he's going to get he's a different kind of receiver. You know what I mean? You're talking about a big slot. And honestly, I mean, Chris Godwin obviously can also be a big slot. We've seen him do it plenty of times in his career. Even Mike Evans can line up in the slot. So if you're going to go 3 big receivers, okay, but now you're changing your offense. Now you're changing the dynamic. So when you're talking about replacing this dynamic, and obviously, again, from Todd Bowles' mouth himself, Russell Gage is expected to be a very big part of this offense, meaning they want that versatility, that explosiveness. The only reason I don't go Devin Tompkins, because I'm the same way as you. I was either going to go Tompkins or Trey Palmer. It's the size, you know what I mean? And maybe that's not completely fair to Devin Tompkins, and he's certainly shown some ability, but I really like him as almost I don't want to say gimmick guy, but almost a receiving running back that never carries the ball, which brings its own limitations. There's a lot of limitations to what Devin Tompkins can do simply because of the left and right limits that he has from his physical build. Not his fault, but they just are what they are. And Trey Palmer can do what Devin Tompkins can do, plus some things that Devin can't do.
Yeah, that is 100% true. But David, the Bucs don't have much cap space, and we know Jason Light and his crew are pretty good at rearranging things. So what if they did bring in an outsider? What if they went out into the free agent market and grabbed a wide receiver? Who do you think they should be looking for?
Well, I was going to say James Washington, honestly, because James Washington, former Steelers wide receiver, I guess former Saints wide receiver. Again, you kind of look at like who is a replacement for that. Unfortunately, about 3-4 hours before we got ready to record, James Washington got signed. He's now with the Indianapolis Colts, so he's no longer an option. So honestly, if I'm the Buccaneers, first of all, I don't go outside because I think this season, like while I believe Jason, I believe Todd, they said they want to be competitive. I get it, but this season has to be about figuring out who's going forward and who's being left behind. It has to be. Even with Russell Gage is healthy, it has to be like that. So to me, I keep it as is, and I go find out what I have. If not, I'm going Kenny Golladay. If I'm going to go big, I'm going to go big. I'm just going to be like, I got 3 6'2+ guys. Good luck matching up on all of them. Because guess what every slot corner in the NFL is? Almost every slot corner. Not every slot corner, but guess what most slot corners are in the NFL? Small. Why? Because most slot receivers in the NFL are small and fast. So Kenny Golladay in the slot against the slot corner, easy matchup. Chris Godwin, easy matchup. Mike Evans, easy matchup. So Kenny Golladay, yes, it's a risk, but it's gonna be a cheap risk. You know what I mean? So if you have to go outside the organization, I don't see another Russell Gage type out there now that James Washington is gone, and even he is not a guarantee. But I would go Kenny Golladay because if we're going to go the opposite direction, just go all the way the opposite direction.
It amazes me that you said that because I wrote Kenny Golladay down fully expecting you to roast me because I remember the Lions, Kenny Golladay, and it's like the Giants signed him to be the dude and he's not that guy. but he can be a dude with Mike and Chris. But the name that I'm going to throw out here real fast, and stay with me here, if they can get him on a team-friendly contract for a year, you know who's sitting out there that's already played with Baker Mayfield? Jarvis Landry.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the other name. Yeah.
We're heading into the second preseason game, and Jarvis Landry is still sitting out there like, dude, you're probably not holding out for a ton of money here. Why don't you come in, help your buddy Baker, join Mike Evans, join Chris Godwin, infuriate the Saints fans because, you know, you'd be going to the Bucs. And I think that would be a lot of fun in a Dave Canales offense.
No, absolutely. I do have a little bit more to add to this conversation, but I'll do that on the other side of our break. So a little bit more about this, and then we'll move on to our next topic coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every stinking day. And today's episode of Locked On Bucs brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire, like a new slot receiver, can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small NFL team or small business if you're a small business owner. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's super easy to create a job post on LinkedIn Jobs, and you can do it for free. Then just add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy for you to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experiences so that you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and who you'd like to hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. It's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or your first view today and every day. Every day is, again, special thank you for all of you to continue coming through, if I can speak English, on a consistent basis like you do. The Buccaneers have some things to fix in their next preseason game. Obviously, one of those things, you got to figure out who the third receiver is going to be. I say it's Trey Palmer. James says it's Devin Tompkins. Honestly, I like both guys, so I'm not going to be angry at either. Maybe it's Kenny Golladay. Maybe it's Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry is interesting because I actually looked him up a little bit, and he had that veiled like tweet or message or whatever about his dip in production. And a lot of people were like, he just took a shot at Baker. And this was in like May. So this is fairly recent. So I don't know what that relationship is like, but if that is not the case, so that relationship is okay, then, you know, Jarvis is certainly an interesting take. Here's the thing I would say about Devin Tompkins. In the entire history of the National Football League, going back to 1921, there are 7 receivers since 1921 that have played in the National Football League, the position of wide receiver, at 5'6" or shorter and had production. Actually, 4 of them had production. 7 of them played. So Devin Tompkins will be number 8, right? But only 4 receivers in NFL history, 5'6" or under, have had production in their second year as NFL wide receivers. And it capped out at Deontay Hardy in 2020, so recently, 20 catches, 186 yards. That's not even Russell Gage production. The next highest is Trendon Holiday. Remember him, everybody? There's a name that we haven't talked about in a long time. 2 catches for 17 yards. So the odds of a second-year receiver, 5'6" or below, coming in and being an impactful player for an NFL franchise, not very high. And with that, I win. We're going to move on. James, there are some things that the Buccaneers need to change. Don't cut me off. That's so rude. I would never talk over you in an episode. I cannot believe you would do that to somebody.
It's actually like 5'10".
No, he's definitely 5'6", bro. I'm 5'10".
Okay, I'm just saying.
There's some things that the Buccaneers need to change in their second preseason game. And James, I know that you were pretty worked up against or following the loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I saw some comments about some epic James Yarcho rants. So you probably got plenty to say. Let us know what the Buccaneers need to change heading into they're already in New York, New Jersey, but into that game.
For the love of all things holy, and Devin Tompkins is 5'8", I just checked. Stop with the penalties. That's all I ask. I know you're not going to have a penalty-free game, but how about you don't have double the penalties and triple the penalty yards as the New York Jets? Maybe. Just a thought. How about you don't negate a 20-plus yard explosive play because of a penalty? And also, hey, if you're going to have penalties, maybe don't get 3 illegal formations. That's a real fast way for these guys to not make a roster or not win the wide receiver 3 job. Stop with the stupid mental penalties. Stop with the nonsense on the right side of the offensive line that negates first downs, and play a clean game. That's all I ask. Again, it doesn't have to be 0 penalties, but, kind of don't be morons. That's all I ask.
I mean, it's fair. Okay. Devin Tompkins is 5'8", listed at 5'8". Fine. Listen, I'm not going to apologize. He's not offended. He knows he's short. In the entire history of the National Football League, receivers 5'8" and under in their second year in the National Football League, only 10 in the entire history of the league have had more than 350 yards receiving. Only
Fair.
10 in the entire history of the National Football League. Now, the plus side to this, playing my own devil's advocate, is that 1, 2, 3, 4 of those 10, so 40%, actually it's not as many as I thought it was going to be. I was actually trying to throw you a bone here, have happened in the 2000s. Yeah, so just, food for thought, just saying. History isn't always a marker of what's going to happen in the future, but it's pretty common. Tyreek Hill is an anomaly for a reason and not a 99 Madden guy. Actually, not a 99 Madden guy. And I met a Madden's rating adjuster today.
Oh,
on Friday.
Did you tell him that he's terrible at his job?
We talked a little bit about Vita Vea. There's actually, it was actually a very good conversation that's not going to be on this show, unfortunately, but we can talk about it at a later time. So what I want this team to change is the offensive line. I didn't get a chance to really talk about this. I messaged you about it during the game. I hated the fact that we had this mismatch offensive line on the field for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because we have all these penalties, all these legal formations, and you don't even have the guys that you're planning on going into the season with on the field as a unit together. And to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, health is important, so you make some of these decisions, but I cover a team in person every day, the Washington Commanders, that are one of the most conservative teams in the National Football League when it comes to injuries. Literally, dude, Chase Young got a stinger in Cleveland a week ago and is still not practicing. You know what I mean? That's how conservative this team is. Sam Cosmi, their right guard, rolled his ankle to the point where he had to be taken to the medical tent. He was back out for the next set of 11s. Why? Because the offensive line is 5 dudes that have to work together. It's not this dude gets experience, that guy gets like Luke Gedeke getting out there and getting experience is great, but he's getting it playing next to a guard that he's not going to play with. And that matters. That impacts things. That changes things. So to me, and I get that you want to keep your all-pro guy, health. I understand all those things, but your offensive line has to operate as a unit. You don't create a unit by plugging different guys in there that aren't going to be in there when you go to war. It doesn't make sense. If you're in an active military unit, you don't take a National Guardsman and say, hey, today you're going to be the driver of this truck, but you're not going to deploy with that unit. You're just going to do it today. Then when they deploy the regular guy, it doesn't make any sense to me. I liked at least, and I told you this, at least they had both quarterbacks playing behind the same line. Great, because you give everybody the same sight picture, right? And that's important in a quarterback competition. But the fact that they went out with this hodgepodge mismatched offensive line, and I'm not talking about Ryan Jensen because I get it, his injury situation and everything else. And honestly, that's a whole other topic that we haven't touched on that I could go on for a long time. How is this dude playing a playoff game in January, but he's not ready to play in week 1 of this season? Someone failed this man. Because James, you know this, and every year, as you probably know, so we've had this conversation somewhere. I am of the mindset of if you let a player will himself onto a playing field knowing that he is not healthy, you are a coward as a coach. If you know this man is not healthy and you let him get fake cleared by a medical team just to play a football game, you are a coward. And you do not care about that player. You don't care about your players at all. And you don't have the right to say that you care about your players. There is no way without a setback that nobody has revealed yet. So caveat that. If there's a setback, fine. They haven't revealed that yet. If there's no setback here, there's no way Ryan Jensen should have been on the field in January if he's not going to be ready in September. That is ridiculous. I said I was going to talk about that later, but obviously I care about that. Anyway, yeah, like you have a starting offensive line. If Ryan Jensen's not part of it, fine, put Robert Hainsey in there. But you have a starting 5 that you are planning on going into the season with. They need to be on the field. Like, that's not hard. They need to be on the field. And then, because like these legal formations and like legal procedures and whole, like, how do you fix them when you're not?
You got a lot more upset and emotional about your fixing of things than I did, and I thought I was going to be the emotional one. But yeah, I get what you're saying. And we have this competition between Hainsey and Leverett for the starting center, but Wirfs and Filer need to be on the left side of that line. You know, Malk and Gedicke got their opportunity on the right side of the line. They're going to be together, you know, start to build that. But you're 100% right. In this game, it needs to be the starting 5. And if you're having this competition between Hainsey and Leverett, the only change that I want to see is whichever player is getting the start gets the start along with Kyle Trask. Then when you bring in Baker, you bring in the other center, the other 4 stay put. That's the only way you're going to be able to judge this accurately. But David,
that's fair.
We got bold prediction time coming up. So all of you watching on YouTube, start dropping your predictions for Saturday in the YouTube comments right now. We're going to give you ours coming up next here on Locked On Bucs. Wrapping things up here on a preview edition of Locked On Bucs podcast, talking about the Bucs against the Jets Saturday night. And David, it's time for bold predictions. I started off the last segment, with my griping and my complaining about the penalties. I'm going to kick it over to you to start this one off. What is your bold prediction for Saturday night, other than Aaron Rodgers is an insufferable human that the commentators won't stop commentating about how amazing and wonderful he is? Because pretty sure on NFL Plus, we're going to get the Jets commentators.
You know, I hear a rumor that the Buccaneers are actually streaming the game on their website.
Excellent.
I don't know that they have a broadcast team out there, so it might still be the Jets feed just streaming on their website. But I think I'm going to give that a shot, because if I have the opportunity to not listen to the Jets broadcast, I'm going to take that opportunity. And real quick, it's already in the comment section, I'm sure. Yes, I said right tackle, not going to play that. I get it. I was just pulling an example, just to be clear here. Yes, I understand that your right tackle did play next to your right guard, but I hope you get the point of the 5-man unit that I was talking about. Anyway, bold prediction, because we live in a chaotic world, James, and nothing with the Buccaneers can go easy. Kyle Trask is going to outplay Baker Mayfield. I don't have a stat line. I don't have like a percentage. I don't have an amount of touchdowns or interceptions. Just that Kyle Trask is going to come out of that game, and for whatever reason, everybody's going to say Kyle Trask played better than Baker. And no matter how badly Baker wants this battle to be over, it's not going to be over. And we're all going to have to sit through this for another week. And that's my bold prediction.
See, it's funny. My bold prediction was also going to involve the quarterbacks. So I'm going to mention what that was before I say a different bold prediction, because I have to come up with a new one. But my bold prediction was that both quarterbacks, would have at least a 70% completion percentage, at least 1 touchdown, and no turnovers. Either one. 0 turnovers against that Jets defense. 0, zip, zilch, nada. My real bold prediction, since I have to pivot, is going to involve the Buccaneers defense against the Jets starters. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to play or not. I don't care. The starting Buccaneers defense that will get some time in this game, I truly believe that they will. It hasn't been announced or anything, but I believe they will. 3 sacks, 1 takeaway, 0 points allowed.
I like it. I hope it happens.
I don't know.
If Vita Vea gets a Madden ratings bump, you're welcome, by the way.
Excellent. We need to work on mics, though. Next time you see that guy, you need to work on Mike Evans.
I mean, look, we were at Commanders practice, so I got in who I could get in. You know what I mean? Like the fact that I was able to get in a Buccaneers player in the conversation, I hope makes our audience happy.
Yeah, I'm just saying if the opportunity presents itself again, there are some players that Mike and Chris should be ahead of. That's all I'm trying to say.
I also told them they need to create a social media rating and then have like simulated beef and like suspensions and stuff. That'll never happen. Oh, you know, I did find out long snappers, they have a target of Madden 25 long snappers will be a thing.
If they get the contract.
Ooh.
It's a contract year for Madden.
But you'll stop cutting long snappers right off the bat because they're rated as 33 overall tight ends. Like long snapper, like they're actually actively developing a process to make long snappers relevant in the game. I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying any of this publicly, but you know, I don't know.
I guess we'll find out. As for the Buccaneers defense, I don't know if all of our listeners and viewers saw the videos of Devin White being mic'd up. That dude was fired up. And there was one moment where he fell real close to Aaron Rodgers' knees. And I couldn't tell what Aaron said, but Devin I think Aaron said something to the effect of like, who's blocking Devin? Who's supposed to be on Devin? And Devin White got up real quick and was like, I got pushed. He was like trying to make it known, like, I'm not gunning for your legs here. Like, don't worry, right. Rodgers. We don't, we're not even in the same conference anymore. But Devin White was fired up. There was one moment where he got double teamed and Vita Vea is off on the side. And he's like, I'll take a freebie because Vita Vea's guy left him to go block Devin White. So this defense is looking to make a point. And you go back to the game against the Steelers where they had the full starting offense. Not a single Buccaneers defensive starter played. So if this is the first action that they get, they are going to be fired up. They are going to be ready to go. And also, bonus bowl prediction, Trey Palmer is going to get a touchdown catch while being defended by Sauce Gardner.
Actually, so that reminds me too, I showed there's two Bucs. I showed the Madden ratings guy that was there, the Trey Palmer highlight from the joint practice. And I don't know what he wrote, but he wrote a note. Nice. He definitely wrote a note after he watched that clip. So just saying, guys,
it's not going to be
Palmer get preseason Madden rating bumps. You are welcome.
It's not going to be a Palmer bump. It's going to be a Sauce deduction. That dude wrote down like Sauce gets mossed by fifth string wide receiver. Like that's what he wrote down because that guy has no idea who Trey Palmer is. But all of our everydayers, all of our YouTube viewers and listeners know who Trey Palmer is, and they are excited to join me on YouTube live after the game, reacting to the Bucs and Jets preseason game Saturday night. If you're a YouTube subscriber, make sure your notifications are turned on. If you're not a YouTube subscriber, what are you doing? Go subscribe, turn the notifications on, and then as soon as I go live, you're going to hear about it, and we're all going to have a grand old time in the group chat. Win or lose, we're going to have a good time. But that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every single day. If you have any questions, thoughts, comments, reactions, drop them in the YouTube comments or email them to lockedonbuckspodcast@gmail.com. You can DM us at Locked On Bucs on Twitter. Check out everything David is doing over at bucksgameday.com. Check out my work at bucksnation.com. Follow us on Twitter at JYarcho_Bucs and at DHarrison82. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.